Welcome, everybody, to Millennials Are Killing Capitalism and East is a podcast live stream. It is good to be with you all this Friday. Cena will be joining us in just a minute. In typical Cena fashion, he is producing a podcast while recording a podcast. And so he's getting Nick off the ground on a recording over on Red Nation. Shout out to Red Nation. The other thing that somebody mentioned in the chat already, John Trudell, um, I didn't realize this, but it's true. So, a couple things on this up front. Resistance is Fertile has been banned from YouTube. And so they are streaming on Rumble, Twitch, Substack, also, I believe, on Twitter currently with Charlotte Cates. And so, I just recommend that people either watch that and then watch this later, or watch this now and then watch that later. And, solidarity to Benji and Sasha for having their channel banned. It's total crap. And sorry that that is going on. And hopefully we can find more ways to continue to support and collaborate with them going forward. I'm sure we will. And also to help them in their campaign of breaking the kind of digital siege of having your channel blocked from YouTube, which, you know, we've talked about in various iterations along the way. Uh, today's going to be kind of informal. I mean, we're going to Cena, I'm sure we'll get some Cena rants in. I have some things to talk about. But one of the things that we wanted to do was to also do an episode where we lifted up a few more Palestinian survival funds. I think this is really an important thing to continue to do right now. The level of devastation that these families in Gaza have dealt with is not something that's just going to be addressed by the ceasefire, however long that it lasts, and hopefully it does. Um, nor whatever, technocratic capitalistic plan for the strip comes next. And so, we wanted to uplift a few people. We've done this a few different ways. The first time we did it, we did one for Mohammed, um, a, a Palestinian that Sina has been supporting, throughout the podcast, and his family of orphans. Um, and then we did one for Lifeline for Gaza, right? And continue to suggest that people use Lifeline for Gaza as a tool to support Palestinians in Gaza. And then we did one for the Samir project, and a couple of those we did along with Adnan Hussein and Nick Estes and Renee Johnston joined us for one, and Resistance is Fertile folks joined us for one. So a lot of different people have helped out on that. But what we wanted to do today was to pick 4 campaigns of people that we have some type of relationship that we've kind of built with throughout the genocide in Gaza, that we could, hopefully give their campaigns a little bit of a boost. There's obviously, better spirits in Gaza when you talk to folks on the ground there. Certainly the ceasefire, it allows people to move more freely to, I mean, there is the whole issue, which I'm sure we'll talk about, that I think 58% of the Gaza Strip is still even going to be controlled by or have Israeli troops in it, in this first phase. But a lot of people are starting to move back into the areas that they're from. Um, and some people cannot. But this first group, so I'm just going to share this fund at the start of things before I bring Cena up onto the screen. So this is the first fund, I think, that's listed in the show description. Support Doaa Osama and her family in Gaza. They have been displaced a number of times and are currently in the south. Doaa is the oldest sister, oldest of the siblings. Um, their their father lost his source of income in the very first days of war, which happened to many Palestinians in Gaza. Um, her brother was forced to leave the university after it was destroyed, cannot continue his education. I believe she graduated university just 2 weeks before the war started in 2023. Obviously there are no job opportunities right now. Hopefully that is something that changes soon. Um, and as part of their displacement, I know at one point that their father remained in the north, in around Gaza City, as and Doa stayed with her for a while too, but he just wouldn't leave. And it wasn't that he was attached even to a home, because their home had been destroyed as well. But he didn't want to leave the north. And eventually she made her way to the south, where her sisters, and I think she has one brother, and her mother largely takes care of her grandmother, who has numerous health issues, and all of that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I'm gonna support. I've got $40 I'm gonna give today, and I'm gonna give 10 to each of these four campaigns. Whatever folks can do to support these folks, they will be super appreciative. And I think it's a great way to kind of um, give them something material to go with the feeling that folks have in Gaza right now, which is a positive feeling, obviously, from the ceasefire being put in place, from the increased mobility, from the promise of a future that is not as devastating as the last 2 years have been to a lot of them. But I think, giving folks something to get them going on that path is an important thing that we can do. So that's one of the things we're going to uplift today. Sina, are you ready to come join me, my friend? All right, cool. Good to be with
Hi, hi everyone. Hi. I'm actually still waiting for Nick to show up. So I'm like looking at two screens. I'm like waiting. But yeah, so I totally mixed up the times today. And what's funny too, I didn't just mix up this time. I'm also recording in 2 hours. Um, and I mixed up the fact that California is like the other direction of time. Like I thought 11 a.m. in California. Like I lived there for 3 years. I knew this fact intimately, but I was like deeply convinced in my heart that it was actually the other way around. So that tells you how I'm doing. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Although not really, given the fact that I never do these, and we've done like four of them in like the last month and a half, I guess. So, and actually, I haven't been recording for my own show like regular episodes, which I'm doing today. And actually, it's a big, exciting surprise. It's with a famous celebrity. Should I tell everyone? Okay, I'll tell everybody who's on the chat. I'm interviewing Reza Aslan. It's gonna be very fun. You know, the guy who wrote "No God But God," and he has a biography of Jesus. He used to have that. He had that show on CNN, and then they canceled him literally for telling off Trump, which is like so crazy. I remember all that. So I'm excited to talk to him. I'm talking to him after this episode, actually, because I confused a bunch of different times today. So that's my life. I'm excited to talk to you about stuff. I I was producing another podcast the other day, and I said to the hosts, it was the McDeasy brothers, I produced their show, and I said to the host and the guests, I don't envy you having to talk about what's going on because I have no idea what to say or think right now about what's going on.
Sina. One
Yes.
second.
Am I
Folks are
quiet?
saying your levels are a little low.
Hold
It
on, I
doesn't.
know what
I'm
it
not.
is.
I'm not
Hold on.
experiencing it, but they are. So
Oh, wait. It's more? Okay. Am I quiet? Okay, let me
that's
turn it up
that's.
here.
Is that better, folks? It's
Is
better
that
for
better,
me, but I
folks?
don't.
I don't know. Let me check. Mic volume. Okay, how about that? Is that better? That should be better. I think
Yeah.
it's a StreamYard problem, not a Cena problem. How is that? Is that better, folks? I was just getting a rant going. Not really. I don't remember what I was talking about.
Well, you were talking about Makdisi Street, so yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I saying, is it better, folks? I can't tell. Whatever. I'll just be louder. Uh, I don't know what to say or feel. Like I just don't know how to really analyze the situation. I mean, it's been this way for a while, so we try anyways. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm excited to talk about these campaigns. I've been talking to the people. I'm not running these campaigns, but I know the people who are. They're very good people, and I've been talking to the two men who are named in the campaigns, but they represent their families, because you learn about them and stuff. And so, um, Yeah, so in the links, we'll include in the links. But oh, I guess you talked about yours, so I might as well talk about my campaigns. So you can share it. I think it's on Lifeline for Gaza. You have the link, or you have the Chuff link. The first one, is Ahmed. These are all guys I met through Mohammed, um, and yeah, Ahmed is, or let me talk about Mahmoud first. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
he
let's just do like one at a time too. So
right.
let's just do we'll do a couple now and then we can do because I did one. Go ahead and do one and then we can add
Okay,
more
so I
later.
can't. Which
Yeah.
one are you showing? Hold on. This is amateur hour at the Apollo.
I can do Ahmed or I can do the other one. Either one.
Let's do Mahmoud's. Let's do Mahmoud's because I've been talking to him through Muhammad, and I learned a little bit about him. This is Mahmoud. I think he's a good longtime friend of Muhammad. You know a little bit about Muhammad already, and he was an engineer. He's studying engineering, and before the war, they had this little shop. You can see that in the image. They're 22, very young, and you know how it is with these Palestinian like young men. I mean, these are young men. They're men. What am I saying, young men? You age. You know, these men have immense burdens on their family, and so Muhammad, as you all know, he's family of orphans, and he's been taking care of his siblings. Um, and so yeah, Mahmoud has been trying to help his family get started. So I was hoping you guys, they they're trying to get, they're still in the north right now, and they're trying to get south. Muhammad has been very worried about him, so I promised him that I would come to you guys, and I would say, toss him a few bucks if you can, and we can support him. And if you're listening to this after the fact, maybe you can click on it and help them out. Anything helps just to get their campaigns going. Obviously, like they don't have the benefit, let's say, of like a podcaster, these months of like a podcaster sort of with a platform helping them. So their campaigns are, not doing as great. So I was hoping we can boost them today. So that's a little bit about Mahmoud, and we'll talk about Ahmed next.
Yeah, no, that's good. So Sina, what do you want to start with? I mean, there's a few things I want to kind of talk about today. I mean, one is the ceasefire and like all of the open questions that we have, you know, with it, right? And not just open, I mean, open questions in terms of obviously, what's actually going to happen, over the next however long, but also, uh, questions of like if it holds, like where does that also leave us, and what do we, how do we be? um, uh, so that's one area. I also want to absolutely talk about Maria Machado winning the Nobel Peace Prize because this is worth us spending a little time talking about how horrific the track record of the Peace Prize is historically, which I did a little time to dig into some of the worst recipients. But also, the fact that she beat Trump, which I find funny. And then, obviously there's a danger with all of this too. I mean, because it's a part of an overall campaign to to demonize Venezuela, to overthrow the government and probably try to assassinate Maduro and all of these things, right? And so that's an important thing to discuss. And I had something else, but I forgot it, but it'll come back to me. But those are some things that are on my mind to rant and rave and explore with you. Um, but yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, it's very confusing this moment we're in. I mean, this has been the case for a long time now. I think we're at a very dangerous inflection point in the history of the world, and I think we have been in one. Dangerous insofar as the future of our planet, the future of our species, any kind of semblance of international law. All of these things are like the world system that we're in. Like you can hear like the flushing sound of history, and the people like with their hands on it are like the West, the people who that they built this system, who that the system it works for towards who's gaining for it. So it's weird to see as the whole thing like as they're like torching the entire West, they're still taking time away to perform like these ridiculous like Cold War era like stupid things. So like all of like the boomer institutions, like they're all money laundering anyways, whatever, who cares? Most everything is. But like human rights orgs are included in this, but part of this is like the merit economy, like the bourgeois merit economy or whatever, right? And like the money laundering that does there, like MacArthur genius grants, all that stuff. Like this whole system is just a money washing machine and like ideological that is just the benefit is like doing some ideological warfare. So you give it to people that society finds whatever useful. And in the Nobel has long been this joke. I mean, they gave it to Obama, like an imperial warlord. Like
They gave
it's a
it to
joke. They
Henry
gave it to
Kissinger,
Zionists. They gave
Cena.
it to Henry, yeah, like they gave it to like the most evil people in the world. So like the question I guess for us is like, what do you do with these stupid institutions of like Western liberalism? Do you just it's like the Oscars, same thing. Like I'm of the view of like just ignore it, but like if you make it's like an advertising campaign. If you like ignore it, it dies because you doesn't have to like occupy your like mental space, but it does relate to our interest because obviously that it's like an engine for Cold War for regime change in. Which is like the same thing as before, but I mean, I'm pretty sure they gave one to that clown Shirin Ebadi. I'm pretty sure they gave one to her. I could be wrong. They gave her something of that. I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, it's
Jack can
funny.
tell me.
Yeah,
Um,
so it is funny because like you look this stuff up, right? And you're like you Google something like who are the most controversial recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize, right? And like it's funny because what registers as controversy to like the liberal media class, right, is not the same thing that would register as
yeah,
controversial for us
yeah,
necessarily.
yes,
Like
exactly.
um I mean like so Obama is controversial, right? In there and listed as that, but it's because in their view, well, he'd only been president for a year, so he hadn't accomplished enough yet, right? And so it's like it's like this very establishment oriented, meritocracy kind of argument of it's controversial because he hadn't been president long enough. Not that he was controversial because he like expanded the drone assassination plan and like moved the forever wars into like more countries and all of the other things, right? um One of the funny ones I found was they gave it once to Antonio Igas Moniz, who devised the lobotomy, right? And so they gave it to him for devising the lobotomy, right? Which is
Because you
like
need a lobotomy to like praise and worship this kind of stuff. It's just like yeah, all these things, all these like holdovers of the West are so cartoonishly silly now to me that I ever cared about institutions is like what the hell just prove like how much American soft power is a part of our lives and like these are institutions of soft American soft power like whatever Western soft power um, and yeah so like it's but the fact is that like the imperial like war machine never stops and so like taking a pause to like like give attention to this like fake clown like the way that they honored like Guaido with like a ceremony stuff like it's just this whole system is such a goon it's so unspeakably silly it really is like a clown show and like all the and like how so much of like the fate of like the future of Gaza actually seems to have actually turned on the fact that Abu fucking Naranha like Immortan Joe himself was convinced he could get one if he got peace. Like that was his big motivation more than anything. Now that's like how it's going to be like how it's being shown to us. We have to like peel that away a little bit and make sense of that because I'm trying to like do I think in these cases I'm like okay what are the different like choose your own adventure scenarios of all this like in terms of the analysis because like there's like a main one which is this is all fake and a ruse and like a which and it will effectively pause the genocide to let them stock up to like reload basically. And it's all a ruse because the supporting evidence of that is the fact that like we don't see a text. Where's the text? What text is there? Like we saw a 20-point plan that was written by like actual Zionist demons, like directly, because Trump is probably halfway illiterate and can't even like look at a document, and doesn't care. So like
Which we know because he also put out the statement from Hamas about like we support or the inalienable right of Palestinian self-determination and defensive weapons and all of this, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna put this out because they said Trump's smart in the first paragraph, and so
yeah, and so if you're like, if that's the ruse angle, but then there's the other angle, which is like that the main cause of this is the fact that like the Zionist army is exhausted, that they've like tapped out, that this is a creative way to tap out, and that holding the land and showing how much land you hold and not declaring any withdrawal lines, because as it stands now they have, I think, more than half of Gaza, at least on maps. What that actually means though is a question, and that actually relates to like what is the ceasefire? Is it like a Lebanon fine ceasefire where Israelis like terrorize local populations and do like terrorism on a daily basis, and the Lebanese state effectively like muzzles Hezbollah because they're like desperately trying? What I think is like they basically, the Zio said, unless you control Hezbollah, we're gonna like assassinate you and destroy your government, which I think is probably like realistic, which is what they do. And the fact that like there are pictures being released, and this goes back to so then I think both of those cases, that's the real case, is that it's either real or fake. Like I think that's real. That's what it comes down to. That like there's a real ceasefire, and like there are real sort of, let's say, hard reasons that they want to stop. Either they're out of ammo or whatever, or they're exhausted, or they can't sustain it, or also has to do complicated by, accelerated by, compounded by Trump's brain and his inability to like continue things. I don't like his inability, like he's getting like, he could have actually gotten bored with this, and the ADHD, like the dopamine thrill of getting the Nobel Prize to just also be like Obama was a lot for him. So he like sucked his neck out. He like got involved in a way, that also the other Sleepy Joe never did actually. Sleepy Joe was just a corpse, obviously, by the end, and probably at the beginning too. So
yeah, somebody said he was at the Phillies game the other day, and I said, "There's no way. He's been dead for years. Like he can't. There's no way that he was actually at the Phillies game."
Yeah, like the weekend of burn, like the fact that we're trapped in like 80s Trump, like Trump's brain ossified in the 80s, right? Like that's where he had the peak. That's like where he peaked, really. And then the rest of it has been this long, slow, like, McDonald's Burger Reich decline, like, whatever. Like that's been this, and we're subject to it. And as like as the U.S. empire has declined, and with it, its political culture, the ability of like, say, the traditional decorum of U.S. sort of state power is flick. So like Trump, I mean, the fact that Trump like steamrolled over like the Bush family, like his dad was the evil guy. He was the head of the CIA. Like Trump insulted the son of the head of the CIA. Like the one-time head, okay, like who then became president, which is the same job now these days, because we know like the White House and like U.S. foreign policy, like this American deep state apparatus, like I don't claim to really understand it. I don't think anybody on the planet does, because it's a mixture of like the military, the deep military industrial complex, the weapons manufacturers, the state, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, and also this political class to an extent, and obviously the economic class. So like the actual makeup of it, God knows what it is. God knows how it like, and there's probably not like obviously like a club. It's more of like a vibe, as you say, like a ruling class vibe, which is what the U.S. seems to have. But the fact that they like let this guy loose, this guy got loose and this bull in a china shop destroyed everything that they had. This like ridiculous tennis freaking badminton game every 4 to 8 years of, back and forth. And the fact that he upset that apple cart and did so on a dime, right? Because he didn't spend any money. It was fucking Sheldon Adelson. I'm pretty sure Sheldon Adelson gave him the phrase MAGA too. I'm pretty sure. And
This you saying 1.0 or 2.0?
2016.
I think he
I
spent.
gotta pause for a second. You gotta take me off. I gotta do something. Yeah, but I'll come
Okay,
back
yeah,
to
no
this. Keep
worries.
going.
All right. I'm gonna fact check Cena on that, but he'll be back soon to attest for his statements. But yeah, so let me just say, first of all, thanks for folks who have already contributed to one of the funds. Um, and yeah, I mean, my thoughts on the ceasefire, I guess now. So, I mean, on I'm sort of with Cena, and I watched also the episode of Electronic Intifada was really good yesterday. Shout out to Nora and Ali and Asa and Tamara and John over there and the show that they do. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. Oh, speaking of whom, there she is, Nora. It's good to be with you.
I brought my cigarette.
This is inside baseball jokes from the Tanky Group Therapy chat. Nora, it's good to be with you again.
Oh, thanks for doing this, Jared.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
We were
know.
just talking, like Cena's hopping on and off. We were just talking about
Oh,
the hello
Kassam's here.
Kassam. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the ceasefire and like what, which you all did. I was just talking about your show yesterday too, because you all kind of like, I think did a lot of the sharing of how many of us are feeling and
Yeah.
don't know what to feel. And I think that's also part of it too, is like we've been down this road so many times already, having two actual ceasefires that didn't last very long at all, as well as many like, oh, a ceasefire is actually going to come now, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly kind of asking yourself like, what's going to be different this time?
Yeah.
And I don't know the part of my brain that like to try to predict how things would go, I think has been destroyed over the last 2 years.
Completely. Completely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Like, I don't know how to feel. I mean, obviously, like there is an enormous sense of relief right now. I mean, just chatting with friends and colleagues in Gaza over the last like 24 hours. Hold on, he's gonna spill my coffee. Don't spill my coffee. Such a menace. Um, I mean, the relief is immense. Uh, there's no bombings happening right now, and that's immeasurable. But like what comes next? I don't. Yeah, I mean, you're so right. That part of my brain has also been destroyed. Like I don't even know how to process what's happening now. There is, there's a big part of me that's very, very, very cautious and kind of bracing for, how and when the Israelis are going to resume the slaughter, because that's their entire, raison d'être. They can't, Israel cannot stop genociding Palestinians. It is their entire national project. And And yet, uh, they lost. Israel is that it lost. It always loses, and in the process of losing, it destroys. And just seeing people, flooding back on the north south roads back into Gaza City this morning. I just remember back in January, which seems like a million years ago, when people were, you know, going back to Gaza City after the ceasefire then was announced. And I just, I the sense of exhaustion that I see people experiencing, but also the sense of rejoicing and joy and pride in being able to to go back to whatever they have to go back to is also unclear. But yeah, and like we were saying on the show yesterday, Hamas and the Palestinian political leadership and the armed struggle factions have taken a huge gamble, and we just kind of have to see. We have to see what happens. But for now, the relief, the ability to just breathe, and for people to be able to plan in whatever way that manifests at this point. I don't know. We're just, or it's this very like unsettling feeling, obviously, I think for everybody, but one step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things I've seen Palestinians in Gaza, at least a couple of them articulate, is just that like the level of joy. It's different this time. I mean, there is like the of course relief
Yeah.
and like the but like it's I can't remember which I saw this on Twitter. It might have I don't want to speculate, but it was a
Yeah.
Palestinian in Gaza, and they were saying, that the feeling that they had in January when they were returning to uh, their home was different because they still had a home to go
Yeah.
back to, right? Like that for a lot of them, there was still like even if they didn't have a home, there was still enough of like a
Yeah.
neighborhood and a community to go back to that it had a different feeling of return, whereas now like a lot of them are afraid in certain
Yeah.
ways to even go back and see what's left, like what ruins are there, and how everything has been bulldozed and
Yeah.
destroyed and everything. And so
Yeah.
I think that's part of it too that I'm seeing is like of course a rejoicing at the end of the bombing and everything else for now, but I'm sure part of it is also their own uneasiness too of like,
Yeah.
how long is this going to last? And um I think the one of the interesting things, I mean, I agree it's a huge gamble to take this very kind of open-ended kind of step into this space of accepting phases of the ceasefire, obviously releasing the prisoners up
Yeah.
front. And I think that one of the interesting ways to think about that is like that this idea of releasing the hostages has been probably the only propaganda piece that has stuck and maintained a lot of resonance
Yeah.
for a lot of folks, and so I think one of the questions is what happens when that goes away entirely, and
Right.
that no longer can be something that anyone says of, oh well, you want this to stop, release them, right? Like which is
Which
sort
has
of
always
the
been just like a total,
of course.
game. They, and it's mostly bots who say that, right? Or like just total Ziofash, people who live in a different reality altogether, who also don't care about the Israeli They don't care about the Israeli captives like Netanyahu didn't care. They could have gotten all of their captives back alive on day one, exactly 2 years ago. And instead, they chose genocide because that was always the plan for Gaza. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like we'll see what their new excuse is. It doesn't matter in a certain level because Palestinians are going to be liberate themselves no matter what the fascists and the genociders and the Zionists say, and they can't stand that. They can't stand it, and it just it depends on whether the world is going to tolerate the existence of this like putrid state. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, I mean, Israel, it can't come back from whatever you want to say. Like it's done. Like that, the Israeli project is done. It's exposed. It's rotting. It has always been rotting. But this, the world has changed, and now it's just a matter of accelerating the process of decolonization and disintegration of the Zionist state. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. As I always say, like we're all, every day we wake up, we're one day closer to the demise of Israel.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. Hi, Sina.
Hi. Sorry I had to go, everyone. I had to deal with something, but I'm back. The world still sucks. So that when I was half mid rant, not rant, but I was kind of outlining because I think I realized I talked through these issues. It really is tanky group therapy. But it's like, so that's the thing, whether it's real or fake. So the realness of it is one scenario that the Zios are exhausted. Americans can't afford. You literally, they're not gods. You can't just manufacture munitions on end. And it seems that the Zionist state, although they are powerful, that their preferred way, especially in these last 6 months, has been this insanely violent, basically terrorist bombings of every block systematically in the hopes of basically making like Gaza unlivable with this flimsy pretext of, we're looking for tunnels. But literally, this is like the most destruction we've ever seen carried out by a state against a people. This criminality will live on forever. But so then the realness of the fakeness, that's the only way I can figure this out. That it could be real that these various actors are all exhausted, and that they chose for good and bad reasons to do this thing that like is really like Trump's signature thing, because he likes attention and whatever. But or that and then it's fake, and that also because maybe both sides are exhausted or the Palestinian side is exhausted, that they have no choice but to sign this deal. Yeah, and that's when it's real. Like that's the realness of it. That there could be like another aspect of it being real. The fake, I guess, did I do the fake thing? I guess no, that was the real part. I got confused. I don't remember which one I'm on. But then the other way, because this is the way I think about it in my brain. It's like a lobby going back and forth, like lobbying it back and forth between like, okay, what if it's that? Because if it is just fake, and if it is just like, is a restock, like a pause and a restock, and like for various reasons they chose to pause this because then the ruse is led by the Americans and endorsed by all the like compradors, Sunni powers, because that was kind of like part of I guess what could be the psyop, or it could be the journalism, you never know, that the Sunni states, the Sunni imperialist states, essentially, the vassal states, so Turkey, Qatar, that they were all pushing Egypt, they were all pushing the Hamas leadership in Doha, which got bombed by the Israeli military, and they survived miraculously. And we know that they did survive. We've seen a picture of the guys. We've seen pictures of the guys who survived, who were said to have been part of the attack. The story was they were at prayers, which to me is like a little too Raf, like a little too perfect. Like it's a little, and I don't know. Like there's one scenario where the Hamas leadership is basically being held hostage and being said, unless you sign this, you're donezo. We're going to shoot all of you in the back of the head right now. And that's kind of how, like, the first Intifada, I don't want to say ended, but it was the comprador leadership in the midst, the section of the PLO that decided to normalize facing in the face of their own people resisting, like valiantly for years. And it was that comprador leadership, which was isolated in Tunisia by that time, because they had left Beirut, in 82, I think, and they were isolated in Tunisia, irrelevant. And so the story goes, like supporting Saddam in his like imperialist aggression on Kuwait was a death knell to the PLO's backers, that they used this back like funding, and like and they're in their ability to like not demise. They sought out this like nuclear option of saving themselves, and they called it the Madrid process or whatever, and that led to Oslo, and then you got the stupid pedo handshake on the pedo lawn in Washington. So like that's this. I said this in an episode of I don't know what show. Was it this show? I don't know. But it's basically like this. What we're watching now is like the Gaza genocide has been one phase of this 30-year-long process now of Palestinian compradors like announcing their capitulation effectively to the Zionist entity and recognizing, normalizing, and seemingly agreeing to slow colonization, or whereas part of that movement did not agree with this move and sought out, and that part obviously was in Gaza, and that part chose national resistance, national project of liberation that sought out other indigenous allies of the region to supply them with the arms and the know-how. And this Gaza genocide is, I don't want to say this, I don't like saying this, but it might be like the closing of that chapter of the Palestinian resistance. Like it may be this phase of it is over. Like, I don't know if that's true, because literally they were resisting yesterday. They were literally making attacks yesterday. So I don't think the Palestinian resistance is exhausted. I don't think, and obviously part of the Zionist entity's plan and all of this is making life so unlivable that you chase people out of the land and you get them to emigrate, right? That's part of the ethnic cleansing, is making life so unlivable. That's been part of this strategy. So those are like the different things that I volley back and forth. And then in the midst of all this, like recognizing that Hamas can still resist, that Qassam is out there, that the other Palestinian factions are still united. To my knowledge, PIJ, PFLP have not, that joint military room is still very much in existence. The unity of fields, or whatever they call it, I don't know what they call it, but it used to have a name. But essentially, one of the accomplishments of the last, let's say, decade of resistance has been the fostering of this unified command room, right? Based in Gaza, where all the resistance factions are united in a shared goal, which is obviously different than the political situation in the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, which is very different. Yeah. So what is the connection between that Doha group and the Qassam is a question I've always had. Like, who are they? What's their connection? Why is Jeremy Scahill so tapped in to the former? Why? Why? Who the hell is Jeremy Scahill to a bunch of like Salafi dudes from Gaza Strip? Like, who the hell is like, what the hell does Jeremy Scahill offer them? Why is he there taking pictures of these guys? You know what I mean? Like, at this ceremony, like Israel kills all the leaders who resist it. And then they sign deals that they prepare, present in front of them for the ones who don't. Okay? So like that's how it works. So I'm trying to figure it out. And my desk is really messy. I'm gonna clean it. Sorry, ADHD moment. Oh, but I can show you guys this. Guys, look. Look. I showed this to Nora. Nora, look, guys, you like my new button?
What?
Is that
Agent
Lego?
Mulder. No, it's remember in the episode of The Simpsons where Agent Mulder was on it, and this was on
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Agent Mulder, FBI.
Oh,
No, it's
that's
not a Lego.
perfect.
It's
But-
a little pin.
It's adorable.
But did you buy like? Where is this a cereal box? Like, where did you get this, Cena?
Timu, a wonderful place called Timu.
God.
Where do I get everything I own?
Cena's brain is a
It's because
wonderland.
I saw all this crap on the side. I was like, oh my God, it looks like a flop house back here. I'm a flop house guy. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's my brain. I think it's so, the gravity of what I'm saying is so bad
Yeah.
of like what I'm proposing, because none of those scenarios are good. Fake or
Yeah.
real, neither of them are good. I'm sorry. Like, so this is the moment I'm in. I'm laughing about it, but
Yeah.
inside I'm crying.
Well, I think that's it. I think there are so many unanswered loops, you know,
Unknown
like
unknowns.
unknown unknowns. Exactly. Like,
Quote the devil
how does
himself.
this? I mean, you know, if there is a real like establishment of unity between not just the armed factions, but the political factions of the Palestinian Liberation Project, like if there's a sort of like reformation that is excluding Fatah for obvious reasons, and isolating Fatah and the PA, which, you know, like Jeremy was saying yesterday, the PA had no representation in the Doha talks. They, you know, I'm not sure if they weren't invited or they didn't want to be part of it. Probably the latter. They probably didn't want to be part of it because they are the compradors. They are the subcontractors of Israel's occupation. And they've been handpicked, you know, by U.S. Regime administrators. So if there is a reformation of something like the PLO when it was originally formed, that excludes, you know, the subcontracting wing. That's interesting. What does that mean for the occupied West Bank going forward? What does that mean for the political future of Gaza? And I think it's, you know, as I mean, I don't want, of course, like I'm not even, I can't even like formulate an image in my mind of, you know, fucking Tony Blair like riding in on a horse with a hat, you know, like a pith helmet probably, right? Trying to be the administrator of Gaza, you know, a white British gentleman finally in control of Palestine. I'm not even allowing myself to imagine that, because I think it's a level of absurdity that like doesn't even make sense. But if the Palestinians are able to reformulate a government by themselves, of their own accord, with their own aspirations, with their own goals, with their own, you know, administrative abilities, that is completely, you know, separate from whatever the West has and, you know, has always wanted for Palestine. That's huge to me. That's huge. And, you know, I mean, you know, then I'm like, if they even try to form a unity government administered by Palestinian people, for Palestinian people, are we going to see another wave of political assassinations by Israel and the U.S. and the Saudis or the Qataris or like whoever? These are all quite like every time I'm like, oh my God, like we're on the brink of another phase toward liberation. I'm then like pounded with these images of like whatever the repercussions would be from the West, because that's been the pattern for the last 100 years in Palestine. Ah, I don't know. It's all so up in the air, and yeah, like this feeling of both relief and numbness, I think, is something that I woke up to this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a very weird time, and I mean, in some way, I made that comment about the part of my brain that would try to do analysis before being killed, but I actually think that's good too. Like, I think that obviously we should try to kind of analyze what we can analyze, but I think that a lot of folks on the left over the past however many years have gotten into this business of like trying to make predictions, and it just doesn't like
Yeah,
it's
no.
very you can't do it, like it always is wrong. And I think it is more interesting, I guess, to try to think through all of the things that are going on and understand the different forces and actors that are at play and like what are the possibilities and so on. But yeah, that I think it's probably good in some sense that if there's something that we can take away out of all of this horror, it would be the idea that we can make a concrete prediction about like what will happen, good, bad, or otherwise. Um, but Sina, you've stirred up a little bit of a hornet's nest, my friend. So I'm going to let you
Oh, I saw.
respond a little bit.
I
So
saw in
I
the
have
comments.
a couple things. So folks are curious now since you mentioned it. So could you explain
Okay, I
first of
can
all, thanks
say.
for the super chat. Explain the thing you meant about Scahill and Hamas leadership. And then the other thing that you noted was, that Morrow sent a message. This is with a huge U.S. military buildup in the region. The ceasefire may be a prelude to a next phase of war on Iran, which I know, Sina, is something every time I talk to you, you predict the next phase of war on Iran. So that's you know, so this is
Classic
like
Cena.
right down your alley right here. But I joke, but I also think that there, of course, is reason for that, which is in some ways like this question, which I think is an important one, which is if there is a ceasefire, right, and if that holds, right, what is U.S. empire and what is Zionism going to do next? Because they're not going to stop killing people all over the world, and so they just have to figure out something else that they're going to do that way, whether it's going to war with Iran, whether it's going to war with Venezuela, or whether it's doing both at the same time, or something, or a secret third door. I don't know. But yeah, so anyways, people asked about the Scahill thing, but the Iran piece as well you could get into.
I mean, look, I don't have any insider information. It's just, to my mind, political actors who become chummy with Western journalists do so for one of two reasons. Either they've been duped into thinking that this journalist is an ally and like a trusted companion or like a trusted person, or like that's like ultimate, or it's some kind of prearranged, like as part of like the theatrics of like U.S. diplomacy. Like I just simply have a hard time believing that Israel would stop being Israel. Like that's the only reason. And so this whole negotiations, and you saw pictures of it, like you never saw them before, right? Like you heard about negotiations, but you never like saw them. You never saw, like, you know what I mean? Like I think, and you wonder, like, is this a psyop? Is it actually going on? Is there a reason is it happening and you're not seeing it? Like, and then you, on top of that, like, what's the value of negotiating with evil scum imperialists who break their agreements like the second you sign it. So like the fact that you reach that phase says something about the relationship of power between the two parties usually, right? Because that's what like the Oslo negotiations were. Those were the terms of surrender. Like Edward Said called it like a Palestinian Versailles, right? Like that's straight up what it was. And so either that's happened in Gaza, or the Gaza resistance, which is still capable, which has a degree of, like, I hate this word, but we'll use it, agency in this, right? Which is not something you can say for the leadership of the West Bank, right? Because they are complete and utter puppets, and in the moment they resist, they'll get murdered by the entity, which is what they did to Arafat, who suddenly changed his footing and started resisting, and then they besieged him and then used their powers within his own power circles to coup him and murder him, right? With like a fucking polonium shawarma or whoever they got him, like they got him, and there was a silent coup. Right? Like there was a coup in the Palestinian Authority and we never heard about it. It was never addressed. It's never spoken in those terms, right? But there was an actual coup d'etat. So, but it's because the same people who were coupping him were also running it before. It was just Arafat was the problem. Arafat proved to be more of an issue, which is actually the strange fate that Saleh faced, except Saleh's was reversed. Saleh was on the right side, which is to say the side that had more, to put it crudely, power. Namely Ansar Allah, back then known as the Houthis. Actually, back then they were Ansar Allah too. But he chose at the last minute, either by threat of whoever actors or who knows, maybe he was just a fickle dude, to say, okay, I'm changing sides again. I did uno reverso. But his erstwhile allies didn't accept that and he died. And they're in power now. So like, I'm like a guy who thinks about things in like iron hard, like clad, like dialectics, and I don't see the oppressor meeting with the oppressed and dictating this agreement that we haven't seen, and there's pictures all along to go with it. I mean, I know Qassam is still there, Al-Qassam Brigades, the largest, most powerful Palestinian resistance faction, and they have, although please, somebody in the chat double check this, they have issued statements. We haven't heard from Abu Ubaidah. It's worrisome, to be honest. He was a powerful voice and a representative of the very, very powerful Qassam. So without his voice right now, I'm actually curious because I've been busy the last few days and I'm not sure I've seen any statements. So if somebody could bring me one in the chat, who can say that, oh, they said this. I think they have, in the past of all this, but I'll be completely honest, like I've been so confused that I haven't been able to formulate like an actual opinion other than like this mess of like, okay, if it's like this, it's like this, and I don't know, potentialities.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in defense of Jeremy, he's been a journalist working on regional issues for like 25 years. And I think because of his credibility with, region, maybe not specifically Palestinian regional politics up until, just a few years ago, but regional politics and kind of like, I think that he's able to be a trusted conduit, I don't know, for English speaking audiences. So I think that he's been asking the right questions of the Hamas leadership sources and the other resistance leadership sources that he's been in touch with. And those are, that's good. And that's beneficial. And it also, I don't know, you have to give a lot of credit to the Palestinian leadership there who, see that Jeremy and others who are relatively trusted sources would be able to get their statements right and not misquote or misrepresent their intentions, I think. So yeah, and I think that what Jeremy was saying yesterday, in terms of like, Khalil al-Hayya, who's one of the Hamas lead negotiators, I mean, he's the political head, had to be in the same room during these negotiations with the actual people on the Israeli side who ordered the strike on him in Doha, killing his son, wounding his wife and grandchildren. I mean, how depraved the Israelis are, shameless, just absolutely like psychotic shamelessness. And for the leader, I mean, for any of us, right? Like I would if someone hurt a hair on the head of one of my children or my loved ones, I mean, I would go ballistic like any of us would, let alone sit in a room and negotiate my own liberation with the people who ordered the hit, like there's a lot. And I just that one sort of like example of the respect and the honor that the Palestinian political leadership has, to keep forging ahead with the National Liberation Project against all of these enemies that have tried to literally kill them and have hurt their family and have decimated their home and have prevented them from, attaining their inalienable rights to return to their homeland, across Palestine, to keep forging ahead and to do it with dignity, is something that I think, Western whites cannot understand. And it speaks to the level of inhumanity, that Israel still gets, that they still get a place at the table of negotiations when they've genocided people, when they've taken people's land for 100 years, that they still, are entitled to some sort of like political legitimacy. I mean, the dishonor in that and how that reflects on the rest of humanity is something that we're going to have to struggle with for the rest of our lives. But I think, I don't know, that one instance of Khalil Hayya having to be in the same room and with his would-be assassins, and still, standing straight and dignified and in his full honor, because he is the representative of the people who are being genocided, who just want to fucking go home, I don't know, that speaks, I think that speaks volumes. Yeah, I don't know, that was just a really impactful moment that I keep thinking about what it says about all of us. Oh, you're muted, Jay.
You're muted, Jay.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine, and
Yeah.
it is so grotesque that
Yeah.
I like the Obama statement the other day. Like, I just
God.
wanted, like, I'm like, I wish I had a shoe that I could throw at this person. Like, I mean, just like the way all of these attempts now to be sort of like, oh, well, the thousands-year long, conflict between these two
First it
peoples
was,
who need to
3,000, and then it was like 300-year-old, and then it was like a millennia. Yeah, I mean, like, it keeps changing.
and thank you Trump for bringing peace to the region for these ancient peoples, like that don't know how to get along with each other. I mean, like it is so
So deranged.
the way that liberalism functions on this like enforced stupidity, like we were exchanging messages with Louis all day today about people who were like excited about Maria Machado
Ugh.
because she won the Nobel Prize, and so she must be good, right? Because it only goes to good people. And for folks who don't know, I mean, I know most of our viewers and listeners are, familiar enough with politics in Venezuela to know, like, who this person is at a glance and like what she's actually about. But I'll share, Venezuela analysis, which I also would say, like, if you want any English language source on Venezuela, like, just go to their website and read the articles. And but this is their just quick summary this morning by tweet, which was she called for U.S. military intervention in Venezuela. She called for sanctions to be imposed on Venezuela, which have killed tens of thousands. She expressed support for Zionist genocide in Gaza, sought backing from mass murderer Netanyahu for a military intervention in Venezuela, and celebrated the U.S. extrajudicial executions of Venezuelans on boats. I mean, she's also
So
somebody who,
peaceful.
oh yeah, just such a peaceful person. She's also somebody who was like really connected with the protests in 2014. Like this was like her movement along with some of the other opposition figures. And like I don't, these are covered very weirdly. So if you saw like Western media coverage of them, you wouldn't really know much. But basically, the opposition would set up blockades in the streets, light fires, and then they would, what the phrase that they would use was like lynching, right? Like there's a famous case, but they killed a lot of people in these protests, right? Um, and in particular, there's a figure, Orlando Figuera, which, I don't, people can look up the images. I don't recommend them, like huge trigger warning, because he's a black Venezuelan, right? An Afro Venezuelan who was literally burned alive. And there are photos of this, right? Of the opposition doing this to him. And it was like a very kind of prominent example of this, but this happened, to like dozens of folks during these protests. And he was obviously, on the side of the Chavista movement,
Same thing also happened at Maidan, the democratic revolution of Maidan. They burnt trade unionists alive. Lovely
Just
people. America
unbelievable.
finds the most lovely people for its allies.
Always. Always.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
anyway, but the the person Louis was talking about was like, oh, but Human Rights Watch says this, or like such and such,
Yeah.
and like better than the Nobel Prize Committee. I think that these are pretty reputable people, like, and I mean this is the deep frustration is that I have is like how dumb everything is,
Yes.
like
Everything is so stupid. So stupid. Like I'm like flummoxed constantly by how dumb everything is and how dumb everyone is, except for us. It's so, yeah, I mean, just like, I mean, the Nobel Prize has been a meaningless thing, even before Henry Kissinger wanted to, right? It's basically a participation trophy for imperialism. And, the fact that, I don't know, that people think it means something, like people think the United Nations means something, like people think that international law means something anymore. I mean, everything has just been rendered meaningless in the last 2 years, and it's become so clear. I mean, I remember talking about this in like the first few weeks of the genocide on Tanky Group Therapy. It was like, oh my God, like all of a sudden, it's like taking a bunch of mushrooms, like everything becomes clear. Like all the veneers of what we've been conditioned to think about, everything from the value of a Nobel Peace Prize to the value of international law to the I don't know, the value of like, people having a moral center at heart, has all been stripped away. It's all been completely erased. And now we're left with, those of us who see clearly are all left with broken hearts and like completely destabilized mental states, and the ability to just see right through all this bullshit, like whether it's the trajectory of Zohran Mamdani, or whether it's, the like AOC and Bernie, and like, these institutions that we thought were, at least somewhat legitimate, like the United Nations or the ICJ or the ICC, and it's kind of like we've entered into this like new global timeline where everything matters and nothing matters. And it's hard. It's really hard to keep yourself sane while trying to hold on to those two warring factions inside our bodies. We are being ruled by the stupidest people on earth, the stupidest, the most childish. There was this great tweet a few days ago where, like basically if you like, it's like everyone's running around, doing all this stupid shit because they're 12, right? Oh yeah, you think the United Nations is gonna stop a genocide? Well, that's adorable because you're 12. Like, you think Zohran Mamdani isn't gonna sell out to the Zionists and the elite class in New York and elsewhere? Well, that's adorable. Like, oh, that's so cute. Good for you, bro. It's because you're 12. And that's kind of where we're all at. We're at this like state of collective arrested development. I don't even know if there was a trajectory for development in the belly of the beast, but at least like, I don't know, at least we can see clearly that everyone's just running around like prepubescent 12-year-old boys, because that's the level of like intellectual discourse that we're at. And morality and ethics and humanity and like,
excuse me, Nora, you forgot Pete Hegseth,
Pete Hegseth, right?
who has reached peak male physical form and is now personally
peak.
carrying the U.S. empire on his and his incredibly ripped shoulders, and definitely not roided out. So funny.
He thinks he's so clever and so funny, and that's so cute because he's 12. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like he's like the little league MVP right now. It's so cute that you think you're important because you're 12 and your whole worldview is centered around you being a prepubescent little white boy. Anyway,
It's very strange. Very.
All that's to
strange
say, I
times.
gotta go, guys. But thank you for this.
Thank you for joining us, Nora. This was great.
Anytime.
Yeah,
comrades.
much appreciated. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. So Sina, do some fundraising. Which campaign should we do next?
Ahmed, the other one I liked. Wait, did we do Ahmed last time? No, Ahmed.
No, we haven't done him yet. Go ahead.
No, we did Mahmoud. Ahmed is in the south. Ahmed is a friend of Muhammad. These are all guys from Beit Hanun, I think. I want to say.
Yeah, which they can't return to Beit Hanun yet either.
There is no.
because,
Yeah, they destroyed
yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, but it's also in the.
Oh, right. Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
in the
It's
north.
not in
Yeah,
the area that's been. It's still
yeah.
occupied.
Part of the 53. Oh, we had some weird person in the chat ask what this little bottle is. They were trying to catch me with some weird ritual. It's this. It's just body lotion. Person who needed to know that. I put it on my dry hands. Uh, I wanted to put in a plug for this guy. I know the coordinator of this campaign as well. Um, you know, these Palestinians have lost everything. Anything helps at this point. And I know the people running their campaigns, they don't have the platform that I have, and they asked me to boost it. And so, yeah, here I am. Please, 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 just toss a few bucks, help them out. It's nice for them to see people boosting them. And maybe pick up your own campaign, maybe help the people organizing this campaign. I see people have already been giving. Thank you. Thank you to the people I mentioned at the beginning, but please give more. And I really appreciate you guys sharing on your wealth, sharing whatever money you have, because it's hard. It's a rough time out there. I'm definitely seeing the campaigns slowing down. I'm seeing that for the campaign I'm running, Muhammad. I'm seeing his slow down. I think the imperialists counted on a certain degree of fatigue in all of this, not just against the Palestinians, but their supporters abroad. I think that's been part of the calculation, is that if they can exhaust the sort of resistance to this death machine, that would help them. So there's that. And they've somewhat been correct, I would say, because resistance has not grown. Resistance has been stamped out, and they've worked effectively. They've criminalized it, obviously, which helps a lot. So yeah, if you can help these campaigns, maybe you can do some offline fundraising. Maybe you can find some people, put a poster up in your house. They have the QR codes you can make in Chrome too. Maybe just help out. Maybe get your relatives and say, oh, I listened to this podcast. The guy asked me to ask some of my relatives. Maybe your relatives can kick in $20 each, and and you have a few of them. That's extra, maybe $100. Just ask. Just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. And yeah, help these people out, and we'll link to them in this episode description. I do. Okay, yeah, you have another campaign.
Well, no, let's stick with that one for a minute, and then we can do mine one like in a little bit. But I just want to say, yeah, thanks to the folks who have been giving already. It looks like between I haven't looked at the fourth campaign, but it looks like some people have been giving to all of them already, and some people have, so thanks, folks, for doing that. You can give a little bit to each of them, or you can pick one that you want to give what you're going to give to. But it's very much needed. I guess one of the questions I have for you, Sina, too, is like kind of where are you at in terms of these chuffed campaigns and these GoFundMes? Like, I think there's one line of thinking where people are like, oh, well, aid is going to go in now, and so it's not as needed. And I'm very resistant to that, but and I also just think like these people have lost so much that whatever they get in terms of aid is absolutely not going to be enough to like really help them to rebuild their lives. And the more that we can support them in rebuilding their lives, the more Palestinians will continue to persist in Gaza, on the land, and not be displaced to other places or killed, right, or die of, so that's part of my thinking, is that still supporting these campaigns is an active way to combat Zionism's ends, even post ceasefire. But like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's so like part of the violence of this whole machine. It's crazy. These people have like some like Swiss Army knife of evil that they can do, and they can push so many different levers. And one thing they've pushed is this siege lever, and part of that lever involves immense amount of sway over the owners of like the kind of digital traffic of funds and campaigns. So it's just so dark to me. Like in the West, charities are money laundering mostly. It's money laundering, ideology laundering, psyops, info warfare, fail kinder, babysitting projects, various things. I would say there's typically very few actually existing NGOs, like very few that actually like are, let's say, like real. I think a lot of stuff is like, if you looked it up, it's like, oh, the son of the owner of this big company, who's also connected to this thing, runs this thing, and he gets an income. Like, that's what a lot of this is. So that darkness and like that money laundering, and then it's not even as if like that's not worse. Like, they can raise like $50 million for Friends of the IDF in one evening, and we're sitting here begging, like, who are probably poor working class people listening to us mostly, for like $10 of their meager evenings. I mean, like, just think of like the David and Goliath nature of this war, of this battle, of this liberation fight is so naked and like so many fronts, and one of it is in the financial front. They have the control over an immense resource pile, and we're just like like a bunch of amateurs working in the dark of the night, like literally, like figuratively speaking, like that's all we can do, and just like stealing whatever money we can, relying on it. I still think if guys like Hassan Piker haven't been doing like this, then they should. And if people who like watch this listen to them, be like, why can't you do this? Why can't you just use your audience? Like, if your audience gave $5 each, that would make a huge difference, because our audience is like nothing compared to his. So like, if people can push him, that would be great, because like, compare him to us, and like what we do changes people's lives. It helps them for like a month, for like weeks. I've seen it. These little things that we do, which to us is sitting here, it doesn't cost us anything to sit here and yammer into our computers. It's free, unlimited resource here, buddy. I can do this all day. I literally do it all day sometimes. So like, if we can do that and we get a few extra bucks, now there's also, people, we understand we can't just always ask you guys to give. Like, we get that, but it's not something that we do lightly too. Because in the meantime, too, a lot of you are also giving to our own Patreons, which we like incredibly respect and value, and it keeps us going. So I don't know. This is just a big old messy way of asking that, like, yeah, we have like the Palestinian people are fueled first and foremost by people power, their liberation struggle. That first and foremost of their own, and then of their allies outside. And like, this is one way we can manifest it. So if you can have like a bake sale, if your kids are like really adorable and have like a tooth missing, and you can manipulate your neighbors into like buying some overpriced bakery baked goods, like do it, whatever. Like, I know Zionists come and show up and they terrorize you. Okay, like that's a risk, but what can they do? Like, what can you do? You shout them down, because part of why they do this, like, is to terrorize you from doing that, is to criminalize your support of these people, of Palestinians. They work to do that. And so if you don't like internalize that, and if you like push back, like that's one way. And like, I don't know, it's possible for us to do a lot. We seem small, but all of you can do a lot. People who are watching this, people who are listening to this down the line, you can do a lot. So that's my plea.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say too is, I mean, we didn't do Iran yet. I don't think. I think we brought it up, but I don't think you actually got into it. So I think we should talk about Iran. But one of the things that is on my mind as well is, obviously, over the last couple of years, and I don't know that this will change, right? Because we don't really know what's going to happen with this ceasefire. It could literally be that phase one happens, and then it's over, right? That the Zionists are like, we're violating it. We're going to try to, maybe get some intelligence during this brief period, refuel, restock our bombs and our ammunition, like you said, Sina, and then go right back to just mass death machine. That's one very real possibility. There is also a possibility that this will go to future phases, and I just don't know. I don't know enough about what's going on right now, and what all the things that the Zionist entity is dealing with internally, and their own internal calculations, Trump's calculations, and what he's made clear to his little settler colony buddy. And so those are the main factors. Is I'm just not sure whether the bloodlust is satisfied, or also if, like, they're just they're tired of their own soldiers just getting
Or
blown
their soldiers
away
are
and
tired
losing
of
their
them.
limbs, and yeah, exactly, like
Yeah.
just sick
I
of
mean,
it, right?
that's if you were them. This is what's getting me. If you were them, why stop now? Why stop now? Like, why? What's you've already burnt every bridge that you
Right.
have, every bridge to like any part of the world that isn't, actively feeding you. You have, and like if you're them, like what's like at what cost? We'll just do it. We'll just do this Lebensraum thing. We'll do our. They're doing a final solution, guys. Like that's what we haven't. I haven't heard this phrase enough, but this is Endlösung. Okay, this is the Zionist Endlösung. Let's use the German because it has more bites. Like this is it. Like we are watching it, and so the real fake thing. I realized as I was laughing about the stupid pin I have, the real fake, because it always makes me laugh. I love this pin so much. I'll be in like the worst mood, and then I'll see it and be like, oh, my Mulder pin. I love this thing. But like I was thinking about this, like the real dark, the version of my reading is like it's actually both. It's real and it's fake. That like they really are tired and they really are like out of ammunition. And they can't afford this. But their own like bloodlust as a culture, their own need to step on their enemies' throats, their own arrogance, but also like forget that like emotional stuff. Forget that stuff you can't prove. They have real material economic problems that will be solved in their Endlösung. They will have like they could develop those gas fields off the coast of Gaza. They could become the conduit for a lot of energy that could be coming from a free Iran, right? Like they could potentially be like a huge power, economically speaking, not just like what they are now, which is a dependent fucking vassal state, or it's like a weird vassal state, let me tell you, because its vassalage is like unlike any other vassalage around the U.S. empire. There's nothing like the entity in the U.S. imperial scheme. There's nothing in world history that's ever been like this. So that's part of this. That's part of like the unchartedness of all of this. Is this beast does not like have any logic. You can't like study it. You can't like look in your IR theory book under loony regime. Like you can't. It's not gonna help. You can't do shit. Like this is, and so. That's partly why I'm like they can't not afford, they can't afford not to invade Iran. There it is, to do it again. Like what's it cost them? Like what? Like the U.S. will do it for them. The U.S., the Brits, all their like it's not just them, right? It's the West. So that's something that, and they need it, and they could take like they took a lot of damage, and you have not seen any photos of Tel Aviv. You've not seen where like the videos of. Like, the rubble getting cleared. Like, that's not, I mean, I'm sure it is, but like, I don't think they can rebuild as quickly. I don't think they have the labor power. I don't think they have the economic power. This is not, like, this is a 13-round, like, battle to the end. And I just don't see them tapping out and be like, okay, not this time, next time. Like, I don't see it. Oh, here, I gotta bounce. Pause for a second. Go back on.
Right on. I'm gonna pull up the last campaign while Sina's getting that together and share it. Let me see. So this one is for Reem's family, and yeah, I mean it's another campaign. It's another family. You know, these are the children in the family, right? Reem is the mother of Rushdie and Julian, right? And this is their campaign. Again, they've lost everything in the war. And thanks to the folks who have already started to give to this one. I'm going to do my donation to this one in a minute, but yeah, appreciate people doing this for these families. I think it's like the least that we can do. It's certainly not the height of the politics that we want to create, but it is something that we can collectively do and support. And yeah, so Sina, are you good, man?
I'm good.
All right. Where were we in your rant?
I don't remember.
So Iran, they can't not do it.
Yeah, the real and fakeness of it. That's like one. That's the other thing I haven't really, like. It could actually be real. Like it could. You know, this the meeting. You know, with the Hamas Politburo. I hate using that. It just came out. I'm sorry. I'm such a lib by using that. But yeah, like that meeting could have been real.
Oh,
they are.
Shout out to Politburos though. Like you know, Politburos are good. We need more of them.
It's just because we inherited, and that's actually the Nobel Prize is part of this too, is that we inherited this like lexicon of our boomer elders and like Gen X people, and so that's one of them. And so yeah, the real and fakeness of this is the question, and it could be a real and fake insofar as like what's them from starting another war in Iran, what's from them of using the vassal Al Qaeda government of Syria, which is what they are, to then filter into Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, to then wage a more serious war of attrition on Hezbollah, which is the entire point of the dirty war. Also in Syria altogether. So what's them from redoing it again? They have the whole plan. They can just do a control copy, copy paste. That like it doesn't cost them. If they think they care, paying some mercenaries through BlackRock, like some goons from God knows where, some psychotic Salafi psycho freaks, like Captagian fueled like rageoids, who just want to like murder the Rafidis or whatever they call it. Like that's not hard for them. That's like as easy as pushing as a button. So like, why stop all that stuff? Why? Like, what's it? There's no reason for them to stop all that stuff. There's no what? Like international condemnation? These things aren't real. There's no international community. These are figments of the liberal media imagination. It's like, oh, what will the world say? There's no world, bitch. Like, there's no world. There's powerful voices, actors in this world who can rebroadcast their message, who can pay to platform their message and masquerade it as the voice of the world. But like, that's where we are. And so like, if anything, as we've all said, like this liberal machine has been shown to be so fake in all of this that like they couldn't even get the Zios out of FIFA. Like they couldn't even muster that. Right? Like, meanwhile, they did on like day 2 of the freaking after Russia invades Donetsk, right? They did it like day 2. Like they had it all lined up. Like it's all fake. So the difficulty for ours is living in a media world where you have to where the people who are your audience typically, or the people are on the same internet as you, and they see this stuff too, so they're curious about it, and so you have to engage it. So like sometimes I worry even talking about these things legitimates them, like the Nobel Prize stuff or whatever. It's like it doesn't exist. It's like dog logic for me. I don't see it. It doesn't exist. So like it's fine. But it does. It is. You have to understand the sort of omnipresent actions of the U.S. imperial project, of like this Western imperial, this like European imperial machine. It operates nonstop. It's this beast. And in many of its weapons are these like soft power weapons. And they control these institutions to like tap the people they choose to represent them and represent their priorities. And we're forced, because we're chained to our chairs in frickin' Plato's cave. We're forced to like watch this fucking puppet theater, shadow puppet theater, and comment on it and like hoot and holler accordingly. Which is also like the basic setup of American political like machine, like the voting machine. That's basically what it is. It's like let the hooting and hollering commence, and then it changes from like, oh, who are the hooties and the hooters or whatever, and like it just changes, and like that's it. So I don't know. So this farcical thing that we're in, and now. But unfortunately, like that farcical thing has been put towards drawing this document up as real. So my own implication to be like, oh, if they're all crowing about this as a ceasefire, it's not. Like it's not, it's something else. That like a ceasefire would look like something else, because the Zionists would just like push other buttons because they knew, okay, we can't do this. But they've never been in a position like this. So I will say all this again. Like I could be wrong, it could be real. That like the realness of it like these are all real. This could be an outcome that they are exhausted, and that what's been released as the 20 plan is not what was agreed to, that something else exists, that there is a phased withdrawal, that they won't be disarmed, that which Qassam would never agree to anyways. So maybe that's the psyop, and then we shouldn't fall for the psyop, and we should wait and trust the resistance and see what they say. But yeah, these are the different swirls in my brain.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing is like we'll see. Like it's impossible, I think, right in this moment to really analyze and to know definitively, unless somebody just is in there and has all kinds of, but even then, I don't think you could know, right? Because it's like there's psyop and information warfare from within the negotiating process itself, right? There's certainly there's a position that Hamas's leadership has taken, right? That it's like, okay, this is what we're going to do now, and and then there's the position that the Israelis have taken now that is also this is what we're going to do now, and what that means in the long term, I don't think we know. But I do think, one of the things that somebody said, which I agree with, Mirza, who also mentioned that Ilan Pape has kind of said this as well, but just that, we have this ceasefire now between the two sides. However, the greater context they are in has shifted dramatically. Israel is widely reviled and isolated. Yes. American power is waning. And the other element of that, I think, was, here, could we place it in the context of Ilan Pape's vision, 2 years of horror followed by collapse? And I haven't looked enough at what Professor Pape has kind of laid out recently, but I do think that it is a time of decline, a time of collapse in certain ways. And I mean, part of what Abdul Jawad has said on our show, which I think makes some sense, right, is that the Western world has this kind of dual relationship to the Zionist entity, which is on the one hand that they know in decline that the level of violence and repression has to go up, but they're uncomfortable with some of what that means, right? Whereas Zionists are not, right? They are willing to, be the bad guys.
Yeah, they love it. They love it.
And so they're like, we'll show you the way. We're gonna do it. And guys, if you want to preserve Western civilization, you gotta come right along with us because we're the only way you have, right? And so there's that, but like even that is a project that can only last so long, because the more you engage in that type of behavior, the more it will accelerate other parts of the world of thinking like, we got to figure out something else besides working with these crazy, unhinged, fascists. And so that's the hopeful point, I think, that we can point people towards, is that this is a symptom of a wider collapse of, U.S. and Western imperialism, and that, we're in the phases of it where, we can see these symptoms much more glaringly than they were in our, we might have known it in the back of our heads for a long time, but, now it's quite visible. And Sina, I know you have to bounce in a few minutes. So to wind down, I mean, I'd just say to folks, again, like we did this in part. Obviously, we wanted to have a conversation. There's a lot to talk about. There'll be more to talk about it in the coming days and weeks. And I'm sure we'll bring folks back together. Shout out to Nora for stopping in. It was always good to see her and to chat with her. And support the campaigns, the funds, if you can. Maybe I should try to do, you could say a few words, Sina, and I can try to do a calculation of what we've raised today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you organizing these things. Jay is the man with all the organizational skills. So he says to me, let's do an episode where we raise some money. So thank you, Jay. He always does the legwork. Thank you to the chat. You guys are so engaged. You know, again, like the community you built, the live community you built. You know, I really aspire to that, and I appreciate all you guys. And please, you know, reach out to your relatives and bug them and ask them. You know, you'd be surprised how like just asking can get you. I'm gonna have my family here this weekend, and you bet your ass they're gonna get guilted into donating to these guys. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Jay. It's fun. It's always fun to do this. It's good for my brain. You're muted.
Man, I'm not doing well on this today. Like I'm usually the one who's not falling victim to the muting. So yeah, so I haven't had a chance to tally up all of it yet, but just on one campaign we did 300. You know, just for Doaa's campaign, folks raised 300. For Mahmoud's, it looks like maybe 75 or so. So folks, if you haven't given to Mahmoud's campaign, that would be one to support. Give him a little boost. Ahmed, it looks like, has gotten more. So he's...
Yeah, thank you guys. We've gotten a few, but maybe when we release this on our main feed, when I release this on my main feed at least, we'll get a few more, and I'll ask people.
Yeah, it looks like Mahmoud about 200, I would say, which is great. And if you can give more, that's great. And then Reem's campaign, about 200 as well. So that's great, guys. I mean, like that's between the four of them, you know, probably $700, $800. But yeah, it would be wonderful if folks can, you know, kick in a little bit more as you leave, or if you're watching this later on, if you could support the campaigns, you know, share the show, give something. And we appreciate you all tuning in and hanging out with us. We realize that this was very informal and kind of silly at times today. But we will have more intelligent things to say in the future. I promise. There's a world in which our brains will start working again, perhaps. You know. So.
Mulder will be back.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
again. Thanks again to the chat. Thanks, Sina, and thanks, Nora. All right. Peace, everybody.
Thank you.